Hey guys, thanks for joining us here on the May video update for ARC Transportation. Andrew, spring is in the air, man.
Matt, happy to have spring here finally, and get some nice weather going.
Yeah, it's been awesome actually lately. A little hot, this early in the year, but I think coming out of a Cleveland winter, that's gladly
Midwest,
taken.
you can't ask for much more than that. No snow, no rain for a little while.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's your favorite springtime activity?
Springtime activity. I'm a bad golfer. I like golfing just so I can actually get out in the weather. Get out in the trees and whatever else. So. Golf's probably my favorite springtime activity for the most part. Not good at it, but I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. We stole my answer, man. I was gonna say, usually getting out that first golf round is always something I look forward to every year. So I'm the same way. I'm not very good, but I love playing.
I've seen you play once or twice. You're pretty good.
It's all relative, man.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's all relative. But like you said, it's just good to get outside and glad that the season's in front of us, right? So get out and play a little golf.
We're actually up here by the Great Lakes. I'm hoping to do some lake stuff this year, like boating and stuff like that. I don't have a boat, but I know some people who have boats.
There you go. That's all you need.
That's the best boat to own is one you don't own. Or the best boat to have is one your friend has.
That's right. Yeah.
So
it's always a blast though, getting out on the water and we forget sometimes that we have a giant lake just north of us and there's tons to do.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some industry news for May.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about a big thing that was in the news. Obviously was this gas pipeline hack.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of rocked the nation here for a second. This was something like I don't remember seeing in the news a pipeline hack in the recent past.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really made headlines, of course, across the nation, and people were talking about fuel and fuel prices. And obviously this impacts logistics. And, the thing was down for, I think, a week and a half almost, something like that.
Something like that, 7 8 days.
And that pipeline was a big deal. It moves 100 million gallons a day of fuel, not just for trucks, but also for airline and diesel fuel. And it really did have an impact. And I think everybody was freaking out a little bit over, what was going to happen to shipping prices.
Well, I mean, that was a crazy thing. I mean, I saw, memes of people filling up garbage bags of fuel thinking they were never going to get fuel again. And if you're out there, sure, I mean, it's terrifying thinking you're never going to have fuel again. But I think you hit one of the more important things. It wasn't just, retail consumer gas. It was diesel. It was jet fuel.
Yeah.
And that made everything change in terms of how do we address the already failing supply chain in the U.S. or flailing supply chain in the U.S. And really make sure this doesn't impact it even worse because we have increased prices for costs across the board for various of reasons, whether it's COVID, whether it's supply chain, congestions at the port, increased costs for labor, all sorts of stuff. So, very, very scary situation for a lot of companies out there. If they're buying fuel, I was talking to a large last mile company down in the Florida, Carolina region, and they're still trying to dig out of the issue they had because 2 or 3 of their stations, which have a few hundred vehicles, they didn't have gas. They didn't have fuel to be able to be delivered for 2 days, which pushed everything back.
Right.
So
That's enough to really mess up a supply chain.
when you're delivering 10,000 packages a day out of a facility or whatever, it's massively impactful. So
yeah, and I mean, I have some numbers here, but 65% of stations were out in North Carolina, 44 were out in Virginia, 43 in South Carolina and Georgia. So, like you said, it obviously had a very quick short-term impact on just truck drivers going through those areas too and trying to get gas.
the cost shot up like crazy because no one wanted to go there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was a blip, which was nice, right?
Yeah.
The blip, it was nice. They ended up doing what they needed to do to get it back online. So
yeah, which was crazy because again, we talked about, you don't really hear this in the news, but apparently this happens more often than not. With,
these ransoms?
People just hacking these systems and then demanding ransoms. So
I know they've done it for small companies. I didn't know they did it.
They said last year they payout for ransoms was $350 million from the private
these types
sector
of hacks?
for the private sector in the U.S. So, but it was up 300% in 2020.
Bitcoin, man.
It's the crypto. It's the dark side of crypto.
The dark side.
So let's talk a little bit about truckload, LTL, and ocean.
Let's do it, yeah.
Really, it's been more of the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just been still everything's congested and there's shortages everywhere. And we really haven't seen or don't see an end in sight quite yet, do we?
No, in fact, one of the big things that's coming out of the last maybe 2-3 weeks, and we might have touched on it previously, but we're seeing that so normally when you book an import from, let's say, Asia, they'll bring it into your inland port. So let's say you have a facility in St. Louis, Missouri. you'll bring it in through the port of maybe LA, and then that port will, put it on the rail and it'll go into your local rail depot or rail yard. Well, Asia stopped inland bookings. So that's not all over, but the majority of them have stopped to where they're only booking it now to specific ports. So you can only get it to the port of LA. You can only get it to the port of Houston.
Gotcha.
Meaning that inland cost, that inland charge, you're going to have to do dock transfers at those places and then truck them in on actual dry vans, typical, 53-foot dry vans.
And that doesn't help for port congestion then,
doesn't help for port congestion. Does not help for costs over the road, because those are only going to increase, because obviously over the road costs have increased, but this is only going to exacerbate an already very poor situation, especially when you look at the labor shortages, the rising costs just across the board in terms of insurance. And there's 20 things that are facing truckload carriers right now, and they can't eat those charges. So they're going to pass them on to the brokerages, the shippers, the importers, whoever it might be that they're engaging with. Same with LTL. We haven't seen demand like this. I mean, the demand is still there. Like, we had bad, really stress the system at the end of 2020, and everybody predicted, it's going to ease up. It hasn't. It's still, the systems are still being overwhelmed with freight. And then ocean, man. Like, there are many manufacturers we talk to right now that they can't get a booking. And if they do get a booking, the cost is so high. We're talking a cost that went from maybe $2,000 to $12,000 per container in some cases. So it's not like, it's double. We're talking sometimes 6x for something that isn't even comparable in terms of service and speed and everything. So it is it's a bad situation for manufacturers out there who depend solely on imports to run their operations. And we don't necessarily see that there's going to be some big change happening. There's less labor coming into the workforce for trucking, which has happened for a long period of time. But in general, we'll see how this all ends up. Everybody's saying, midsummer it should let up. up. We're hoping and praying that it lets up as well, but there's really no reason to say that other than just being optimistic about it.
Right. And talking with people too in the manufacturing world, have you got any sense that people are going to totally change their strategy to maybe not be so dependent on freight coming in from the east?
We've seen a few people at least do some like strategic thinking about how do I bring this stuff back, or even look into other areas like Mexico as a manufacturing point. But we've also I've read some articles and talked to people. They spent 5, 8, 9, 10 years trying to build a good infrastructure in Asia to do this work. They're kind of like, we can't just throw all that work away and pull out. Yeah. So they're doing some other things, like they're moving some production to Vietnam, South Korea. We're seeing a lot of production go there. But the interesting thing about that is the one thing that Asia, or more, I should say China and Taiwan have really as a benefit to them is their supply chain. They've benefited from being able to use all the stuff we create in terms of manufacturing over there to really build their supply chain network. So when you shift over to Vietnam, it's not an actual production, like piecework production, that's the issue. It's the infrastructure around that's really becoming the issue on these imports.
Wow, that's a really interesting point, Andrew. I never thought about that. The fact that all the logistics infrastructure that's built there, because they're good at moving stuff too, right? So not only can they make it, they've really got down how to move that to the port and get it out quickly. Whereas if you don't have a sophisticated infrastructure, that could obviously add a lot of time to the transport.
Not a time, just capabilities. So even when you look at moving it in Mexico, they don't have the infrastructure to get across the border the same way Asia would. Even though Asia is further away, it's just it's a weird it was strategic, and I don't even know if they set out to be strategic, but it put them in a position to be very powerful in terms of the strategy of being able to own that supply chain for imports. So if you're a manufacturer and thinking about it, that's a big caveat to moving your product out of China or Taiwan, one of those more predominantly what you think about in terms of production, because it's going to be important to do that for the future and safety of your supply chain. But at the end of the day, there will come a cost where either increase costs or time in terms of getting to you. So.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, man.
All right, well, let's move into our shipping insight for this month. We're actually going to talk about CTPAT. CTPAT.
Yeah,
so some of you shippers might be familiar with this. CTPAT stands for Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. So it's got an acronym like everything in logistics. But Andrew, can you kind of tell us what is, CTPAT and why it's important for a supply chain?
Sure, yeah. So CTPAT, at the end of the day, it's a voluntary program that the CBP, Customs Border Patrol, runs, and it allows importers, forwarders, truckers, anybody that participates in the supply chain to put a set of rules and procedures in place inside their organization that let the CBP know they operate with a certain level of sophistication, all in an effort to prevent things like human trafficking, smuggling, improper classification of goods, a myriad of things that we do not want happening in the U.S. The ICPM would certifying valid. So even things down to the fact of like, are you taking the proper protocols when you're bringing in FDA goods, those type of things, simply because they're trying to get a better grasp on what's coming into the country outside of just paying duties and taxes. So for the longest time, it was just being ran as, hey, you bring in your customs, it clears, you tell us what it is, we'll do an inspection on it. And CTPAT came out and basically said, listen, if we partner with the shipping community, we partner with the manufacturers, we can speed the process up for those manufacturers and those shippers, and add another level of intelligence on top of it to where we know that everybody's doing the container inspections the same way when they load them. Everybody's looking out and being aware that this does happen, because it's very often that people import stuff. It might be of the proper container. Everything looks exactly the same, but they've got a false bottom, or they got stuff packed individually or packed differently, and they want to make sure that they basically empower the manufacturers and the forwarders, who are all playing by the rules, to spot the issues that might be coming up and be participants in really making our borders and supply chain a more secure supply chain overall.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it really kind of opens the door into some shipping partners and people that you're working with on a normal basis, and kind of gives the green light to make all the customs go faster once they meet the specifications. Yeah. So,
outside of the specifications, the specifications are lengthy. It requires a lot of work to become CTPAT certified. In fact, I'm repping Varut today. Varut helped maintain our CTPAT compliance.
We just got it renewed, correct?
Yeah, we just got it renewed because they rolled out new mandates. They have a new MSC, which is the minimum security requirements for the new wave of CTPAT. They added a bunch of cybersecurity stuff, which dovetails nicely into the pipeline conversation. They're trying to make sure people's systems are properly secure. But the benefit of CTPAT, and I pulled this up just so I'm reading off a list, but they're actually pretty good, especially if you're a manufacturer. So the best way to look at this is, if you're a freight forwarder, becoming a CTPAT or third-party logistics provider or ocean carrier, becoming CTPAT certified allows you to work closer with the importer or the manufacturer of these goods. What it does is it really creates that chain of custody that allows everybody to be in line with one another. You, as a 3PL or a freight forwarder, might be requested by the manufacturer. If you're a manufacturer, you should really look into becoming CTPAT certified, simply because the list of benefits that it gives you. So real quick, I'll pick out a few that are super important, right? You get front of line inspection. So if you do get flagged for an inspection on your container, you don't sit in the queue. Your containers or your truck, whatever it might be, gets put right in front of the line, and you get priority inspections. Okay. It reduces the number of CBP examinations. So in the event you do get picked, you're only going to be able to get picked at a certain number of times, simply because you're participating and you're going through these verifications and these re-verifications at an ongoing basis with CBP. Shorter wait times at the border. So on stuff that crosses the border, like Mexico to the U.S. or vice versa, or Mexico to U.S. I should say, you're able to get in what they call these fast lanes, and fast lanes allow them to quickly process your paperwork and get you through the border without sitting in the standard customs line. So there's a bunch of other benefits as well, but really those are the biggest things in terms of having your business operate more smoothly, that as a manufacturer or importer, you get the benefit from.
Okay. And I was actually going to ask you if a manufacturer should get CTPAT certified, and obviously just laid that out, but what does that look like? What does that entail? How do you do it? How long does it take?
Sure. So the complexity of your organization is really going to dictate the difficulty of becoming CTPAT certified. It's not difficult. It's more along the lines of, auditing your internal process.
Okay.
So it's not like there's a bunch of hoops you have to jump through, as opposed, outside of collecting information on how you do things, or maybe augmenting or changing certain ways how you do things. And I'll give you one example. One of the big things they want to understand is your flow of goods. So how do goods actually get manufactured? How do they come into the country? How do you distribute them? So as a manufacturer, you obviously know this internally, but very few manufacturers that we know actually have this mapped out in like a security workflow.
Sure.
So partnering with a company like a Varut or even ARC can help you become CTPAT certified. What they'll do is they'll walk you through the steps in terms of making sure you understand the questions and how to answer them. You're going to go through and build out these proper forms and this proper information to help you become CTPAT certified. At the end of the day, what it truly, like the tactical side of it is, you apply for it at CBP, you go and apply, it's free. There's no cost to be part of the program. Then you're given a security profile that you have to fill out. And this is where it gets daunting because it's a few hundred questions. They're detailed questions. They're asking you things like, what type of inspection do you do when an empty container comes for you to load it to your dock?
Okay.
What type of security do you have on your dock? Do you have video surveillance in your warehouse? How do your employees have access to your facility? So it's a lot of detail like that. That requires, usually a few stakeholders in your organization to participate to pull this data together and properly present it to the CBP. But again, it's kind of it's almost like an OSHA certification in some way. If anybody out there is familiar with OSHA, without the penalties, because the thing about this whole program is the only like negative hit you have is they just take away your certification. Okay. So that's the benefit. You get all these benefits. It costs you nothing to participate outside of internal costs, right? To maintain these programs. And you get all these benefits, but there's no like, you're not going to get fined by CTPAT. You might get fined by CBP for other things if you do stuff wrong, but in regards to the CTPAT program, you're not fined. So really it's a no-brainer. I mean, for a relatively little sum of money, and depending on the complexity, it's the verification process might be a one-time consulting fee of $10,000 to $20,000 or whatever, somewhere in that range, depending if you have multi-facilities you need work done or you need people to fly out. And then there's usually not some ongoing cost to just maintaining your vendors, because once you become CTPAT certified, you're going to want all your vendors that you utilize, if you're an importer or if you're a 3PL, to participate in the CTPAT program, because then you're all doing the same process and they're signing off on security letters saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you, or I'm going to do this on your behalf. So there's a little bit of cost involved in that, but at the end of the day, if your supply chain is built on importing, CBP is going to be giving more and more power to those in the CTPAT program. Okay. They've mentioned it many times. You can do your own research on it. Just type in CTPAT, and you can find tons of information of it online, and really the benefits of being an importer and participating in the program. Yeah. Because it gives you a bunch of opportunities.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying it's some work to get it done, but it's free and there's a lot of benefits. So yeah, shippers out there, if you guys, like Andrew said, are based on imports, definitely look into being CTPAT certified. Mm-hmm.
It's critical to making the supply chain work today.
All right, Andrew, thanks again for explaining that to us. I want to move into a company highlight about ARC. It's something that we do every year, and we just got done loading a container last week. So I wanted to talk about it, but we've been helping a hospital in Africa, actually, Gabon, Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And for quite some time. But tell us a little bit about what that is and how we got started doing that.
Yeah, so Gabon, Africa, they were setting up a medical center there, a hospital in Gabon, Africa. Some missionaries in a church that some of us have attended were trying to set this facility up. And they were using, they were trying to get equipment over there. And us being an international freight forwarder, we heard through the grapevine they were having some struggles trying to get stuff. So we reached out to them and just, we talked to the guys over there and some of the people stateside that were trying to help facilitate it. And we said, listen, let us help you guys. I don't know how you guys are doing this. It seems like we can be of assistance and help. And that started, I want to say, like 10 years, 11, 12 years. Yeah. It's been a long time, about 12 years ago, where throughout the year we'll build a consolidation basically for this hospital. So it comes anything from medical gurneys, CTPAT machines, whatever it might be, down to building materials. Like we ship, HVAC systems over there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we'll consolidate them on containers, and we do all the paperwork. We'll ship vehicles over there for them where we break down vehicles and get the proper inspections done. And we just facilitate the whole transportation over to Gabon, Africa. We feel it's it's a way we can give back, number one.
Yeah.
But also providing that insight, providing a DC where they can send stuff, because the majority of the hospital is made up of missionaries. So just little creature comforts like a laundry detergent, right? They can't get laundry detergent over there as easily. So they'll buy laundry detergent on Amazon and have it shipped to our warehouse, and we'll build up this inventory, and then we ship it over to them for their own personal consumption. And it's been going that way for a long period of time. And we truly love it. We get updates from the hospital. We've had some very close friends go over there and spend a few weeks there at times. Actually, some of my siblings have gone over. Some of my siblings are nurses. I got a few nurses as sisters. They've actually went and spent time there in Gabon. So we really enjoy doing these type of things for missions and organizations that we believe in. And we've done a few other types of services like this for organizations, but really at the end of the day, we have a heart to serve not just our customers, but also serve what we believe missions that are trying to help change the world for the better. So Gabon, Africa has been doing a phenomenal job of building this place into a center of truly just hope for the region and ways for people to get medical attention. Treatment. And that's a huge issue that they're facing all over the world. That's not in that's maybe third world or not in the top tier in terms of medical help. But even in the I shouldn't even say even in the U.S. people are struggling with medical attention right now. But even more so without the infrastructure, because that's the biggest thing. There was no infrastructure there, to the point that we're bringing generators in, we're bringing windmills in to generate power, well digging equipment, all sorts of stuff to really bring this vision of a medical center or hospital in Gabon to life. And we had the easy part, and it was just collecting stuff and loading containers.
Yeah, well, I'm always amazed every year that we do it how much stuff we can put into a 40-foot container.
It's incredible.
They're between bikes and
basic
IKEA
stuff,
furniture,
basic stuff you wouldn't even think about.
Food,
bicycles, inner tubes, right? They're like, oh, we need inner tubes for our bicycles, so we'll get a box of just inner tubes for bikes so they can ride around their complex. It's kind of mind-boggling, the things you don't think about that you just go on Amazon or run into Walmart and buy, and they just don't have it there. So we get food orders. We'll have pallets of food come in from DCs where they're just like, we need ramen or something like that. It's bizarre, but it's a great way we get to give back and a great way to participate in a mission that we enjoy. And
shout out to Josh and Tom and George from last week, because they really knocked out loading that container, and there's quite a bit of Tetris that has to happen, and those guys are really good at it. So cool. Also, look out for a video. I tried to do a video. We did one last year, and I tried to do another video.
You got one going for this
year? Yeah. Nice. I talked to George a little bit, and so look out for that. We'll have that up a little bit about our involvement with Gabon. So.
Excellent. That's awesome.
All right, Andrew, that brings us to our Did You Know section for May here.
Let's hear it.
I got a couple Did You Knows from Africa, actually, since we were talking about Africa. So Africa is the second largest continent in the world. You know that. It makes up approximately 22% of the Earth's total land area and 6% of the Earth's total surface. And just to give some context, we know about the Sahara Desert. It's the largest desert in the world, and it's bigger than the continental U.S.
I didn't know.
I knew it was big, but I was like, wait.
Bigger than the U.S. Wow.
Bigger than the
obviously outside
US.
of Alaska. Wow, that's crazy.
Yes. 30% of Earth's remaining mineral resources are in Africa. And then the last one, I didn't see this one coming. But
I actually knew this one.
You knew this one?
I knew this one.
The most
Hit him with it.
Okay, the most dangerous animal in all of Africa is the mighty hippo.
I knew that one. I was watching some Discovery Channel, and I don't know how many people get killed a year. They'll be canoeing down a river, and a hippo just gets angry. Them out.
Yeah.
It just rips the canoe in half.
Because they look kind of fat and lazy, so people think, oh, look at that nice happy hippo, and they're just mean.
I heard they're fast, and they're mean and everything.
Yeah, they're really fast. So.
But 30% of the Earth's remaining mineral resources are in Africa.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in mining, you're looking how to get in Africa.
Right,
that's for
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up our May update, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, as always, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, everyone. See you next month.